Shalom, call halal Yahweh Bashem Abishai Bashem Akakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. To the confusion of face joined unto our ranks, to the hopefully elect, the Akwaf that are listening and learning to you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm coming at you with another lesson. And from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, and I'm going to open with a scripture. This is 2nd Ezra, the 9th chapter, starting at verse 1, and it reads, He answered me then and said, Measure thou the time diligently in itself, when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before. Then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world, which he made. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then thou shalt well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. So the end was declared in the beginning, and the things that we're seeing in the world are the part of the prophecies. And if someone who's not teaching according to prophecy is not called to do so, right? The churches don't deal with prophecies. They deal with the love feel-good doctrine. I was standing in front of a church yesterday and it was driving me nuts because it was so loud listening to that, you know, somebody is in a dark place in here, you know, and the band playing and all that, and, you know, Lord, all that crazy mess, man. And, you know, Jake eat that up. But they don't deal with prophecy, though. All right? And that was I forget, but it was a Baptist church, one of the Baptist churches, you know, with that typical Southern singing, rapping type, pimpalistic sermons. It has nothing to do with the Bible, just getting the money from you. But this is Revelation 19 and 10, and it reads, And I fell at his feet to worship him. And he said unto me, See thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant and of thy brethren that have the testimony of Yahushai. Worship power, for the testimony of Yahushai is the spirit of prophecy. All right? So the testimony of the Lord is the spirit of the prophecy of the things that were to come, were going to happen. All right? And they don't talk about that. All they talk about this fictional love that God just loves everybody. You know, I'm actually going to do a lesson about, you know, on his lineage and reincarnation, because I forget, one of my subscribers keeps asking me to do so, and I'm going to go into that. But he came from a line of kings. All right? So Yahushai was a lowly king. He was the king of kings, yet he came in a low state. And the next time he comes, he's coming to claim what's his, all the nations. And he's going to share that rulership with the co-heirs, which are Israelites, his people. And they're aware of this. And this is the reason why the video we're looking at is what we're looking at. This guy is one of the reasons why they want to control the YouTube. Okay? And this is a Jimmy Dore video, and it's called Tulsi Gabbard Educates Ignorant Women of the View. And the women on the View are ignorant, and basically, well, let's let him tell it.
You have women on, right? And then you have women of color on also, to several different women of color on the show. And it's amazing how, and you have rich, super wealthy, legacy, rich white people and Hispanic people and all women. And it's just amazing how they all have the exact same view. It's called The View, but you only get one view on The View. And why would you think that they only have one view? Why would you think there's 5 women? Wouldn't one of them have a different opinion? No. Why? Because they're all from the same class of people. That's why. And what do regime change wars, who do they hurt? They hurt poor black and brown people. They're not in their class. They don't give a shit. So I'm gonna show you.
Jimmy, it's actually called The View, so you know it's a singular view.
It's a singular,
not the views.
not the views. Yes, that's very good. Very well said. It's not the views. It's The View. Now, do you ever watch The View?
Oh, no.
I mean, you're a woman. It's supposed to appeal to you.
Oh, it's awful when they bring out different brooches for spring. I can't take it. Well, that's where we first saw her perform, right? When we saw Nelly on The View.
Oh my God, that was the first time I ever saw you. It was on The View.
Right.
You don't watch it, but you were on it.
Oh yeah, I don't think they got that song either, because that song kind of has two different points of view, and they only saw one.
Yeah. The song was "I Want to Get Married," so that's a satirical song.
Right, but it's not pure. I think it's always quite.
Okay, let's get past that too.
And Vietnam, the first Gulf War. I'm going to show you.
Jimmy, it's actually called The View, so you know it's a.
We're on it.
Oh yeah, I don't think they got that song either, because that's
why that service, how it informs her opinion on our regime change wars. Now, you realize that every war since, I don't know, World War II has been a complete bullshit war. And,
even World War II was a bullshit war. All right? They all were bankers' wars. The bankers financed both sides. And the World War II was fought just to make the petrodollar, to make America the most powerful country in the world. And that's exactly what happened. All right? And it also fulfilled prophecy, because the 10 Horns, which is NATO, came up out of that.
Vietnam, the first Gulf War, Grenada, Panama, the second Gulf War, Libya, Syria, and they all followed the same pattern, right? So before, as George Galloway points out, before we actually invade a country, we first have to launch our narrative. And the narrative is always they're a bad guy, and they oppress their own people, and they're probably torturing them or whatever.
Exactly.
So then we have to go set up our own torture rooms. Okay, so here's what she says, and this is how she's going to explain it to them.
As a soldier, I deployed with our brigade combat team from Hawaii. I volunteered to deploy with them to Iraq in 2005, which was the height of the conflict there. Mm-hmm. I served in a medical unit where every single day I was confronted with, in a heart-wrenching way, the high human cost of war. Very first thing I did every single morning was go down a list of names of every single American casualty, every single service member who had been injured the day before. And I had to see if any of our brigade soldiers were on that list, make sure they got the care that they needed, or to evacuate them as quickly as possible. But as I went through this list every single day, I was struck with the names and the faces of my brothers and sisters who were paying the price for this war. I was struck with their families, their loved ones at home.
Now, what she's not going to talk about is the fact that that war was all done on false pretenses, on a lie, and everyone knows it. Just like the Gulf of Tonkin, there were no weapons of mass destruction. So what did they do then? So he's a horrible dictator, and he's doing this and that to his people. The same old lie. Just like Assad when he's winning a war, and all of a sudden you're winning a war against outsiders, but then you're going to gas your own people. And what they're angry at is that this information about these lies and these false flags are being exposed by independent social media and also mainly in the main platform is YouTube. And then the real truth that's happening on YouTube is the Hebrew Israelites. Because they're the only ones, starting with first and foremost with the great millstone, that are giving you the prophetic spin, the prophetic connection to these things that are happening in the world. They're the only ones doing this. So here she is over there and volunteered to be in a... When you read, you see the great movies in the times of old, man. Women did not go to war. Now, granted, she was in a medical unit. She probably was a nurse and she was working on the wounded. So that's fine. But as far as, women going to war, the fact that we live in a day and age where they're going to put arms in a woman to go face other men is... Well, it goes to show you how far we've fallen. Because it's not the way things are supposed to be. Women are not built for combat. All right? You see these women becoming UFC fighters and boxers and all that stuff. You know, that's fine and dandy. You're doing that against other women. Fighting a man is a whole nother thing. All right? And a woman in combat could compromise all the men that's there, especially once the sexual relations, which they always happen, begin. Then all of a sudden the mission gets overlooked, and you mess, you know, because of you worrying about this woman that you're having relations with and that whole sort of thing. All right? But let me grab a quick scripture, which is, and this is Daniel 8 and 25, and it reads, "Through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace he shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand." So what you're looking at is the lead up to World War III. Or should we say the beginning stages? It's already begun. Truth be said, the World War III started when the Twin Towers went down, and the third tower that went down that they don't like to talk about. They always say the Twin Towers and leave out the fact that a third building fell that didn't get hit by anything. Right, the Tower 7, which was half the height of the other two. The other two were like 100-story buildings. That one was like a 50-something story building, and that one went down too. But yet it's like no one talks about it, like it wasn't there. All right, but let's click and see the next.
So the New York Times is going to let you know how dangerous YouTube is. It's very dangerous. So they did this article. Here it is. And they did this article, and it was all about how one guy got radicalized, and his name is...
And a lot of those faces on there, I've seen their video. I've made videos on a lot of these people, proving them wrong on many points. There's a lot of familiar faces in here. But yet, these people do really bring out a lot of important and, you know, and pertinent information. All right? But the one thing that they don't bring out is the biblical prophecies and how it's playing out, and how the fall of the majority of them are Edomites on this that you see on their faces. All right, and that Edom would be the last ruling people before the coming of the Lord, before the King of Kings. All right, they're the people that are going to be broken without hand, and their house divided. The fact that there's Alex Jones and the Young Turks, and the fact that they're all so divided, you know. The mainstream media versus Jimmy Dore and his constituents over his shoulder, because you're seeing a house that's divided, and a house divided cannot stand. That's Mark 3 and 25, I believe. And it reads, I started 23. And he called them unto him, and he said unto them in a parable, how can Satan cast out Satan? And if a kingdom be divided against itself, then the kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand, but have an end. And that's what you're seeing, man. Right now, I'm fighting a court case, man. And my case is already established in the federal courts, and the state courts keep trying to bring me to court on a case that they have no jurisdiction over. They are a house divided. The case has been taken away from the state court to the federal court, and they're proceeding with their stuff as if the federal court doesn't have power over them, and it does. So you clearly look at, and not to mention that here in Illinois, that that's being led by a damn Israelite woman, Eve, the Judite woman. Well, let me just say it how it is, the nigger woman. All right, they're trying to get around their own policies, man, break their own laws. But this is madness. You're seeing the fall of Esau, Edom. All right, but let's say a little bit more of that play. All right,
is Caleb Kane, how he got radicalized on YouTube. He got radicalized. You know what he got radicalized by? There was ideas that have been around forever. Conservative right-wing ideas that have been here forever. He went to YouTube, radicalized them. I think that they should, well, Well, I'll show you how radical this is. So this is literally, so when you go, it's like one of these interactive things online. If you read the story online, and these little things would come up. And what is that? That says, you can't read it, but I'll read it to you. So first of all, the big problem is they have this collage of people, and the text reads, Caleb Kane was a college dropout looking for direction. He turned to YouTube. So it says, soon he was pulled into a far-right universe, watching thousands of videos filled with conspiracy theories, misogyny, and racism.
Now, you could say that same thing about Fox. All right? Because they said something about authorized information. Authorized information according to whom? All right? When half the stories that they've put up are being proven to be wrong. This is just Esau trying to control the narrative, and it's gotten away from him. Even when Clinton's wife was in office, when Hillary was still in office, when she was running for president, she made a statement that we're in an information war and we're losing. And the we're losing, she was talking about the mainstream media. So the mainstream media is just trying to bogart their way back into control, and they're using government policy to try and discredit and shut the mouths of people who are speaking the truth, who are speaking out against them. All right, that's simply what's happening here, and trying to control the narrative, like this latest incident with the ship over there in
the South Carolinians had said would cause an attack.
And we didn't go into
let's go back to this
before. This is a guy named Pat Clausen, and this is how these guys talk openly. And so and this is what he says about Iran.
I frankly think that crisis initiation is really tough.
Crisis initiation. So that's Orwellian speak for how do we start a war with a country we want to invade and steal their natural resources? How do we do that?
Oh,
you
man,
have to have
hold
a
on.
crisis.
Let's get a scripture. How did he said that? He said, well, how do we start a war so we can still land the resources? This is Micah 2, and point is in verse 2, but I'm going to start at verse 1. 2 and 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. They covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away, so that they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. And this is the modus operatus of Esau Edom. So let's listen to this devil telling himself a little bit more.
This initiation, that means starting a war. That's what he means.
I frankly think that crisis initiation is really tough. And it's very hard for me to see how the United States president can get us to war with Iran.
And so that's the whole thing, is about getting them to war with Iran. So this latest incident, is really weak. It's so horrible how they're trying to push it off. But yet, I watched a video where Mike Pompeo went on record speaking with great confidence about how involved Iran was with this incident that happened with the Japanese freighter ship, and trying to get the Japanese and the rest of Europe involved in this thing. And the nations of the world, they don't want to have nothing to do with it, man, because the footage was broadcasting live as it was happening, but yet the proof that America produced was an old grainy black and white image that looked like it came from Vietnam or something, man. All right? When we got high definition everything, and the only footage that they can give you is some black and white, gray, grainy. Come on, man. And the story changed so many times. It's just pathetic. Let's see if we can find this. Yeah, this one right here. We'll close up with this one.
The US may be opening another front in its international trade war, this time with its ally India. And New Delhi's already firing back. It's imposed tariffs on a further 28 American products, some as high as 70%. All this follows Donald Trump's refusal to exempt India from increased steel and aluminium taxes in the US last year.
They said now they're poking at India now. They're starting a new trade war with India. And India fired back immediately. And you know why? Because India bought those S-400 series military-grade weapons and defense system from Russia. So basically, America just lost another ally, and is starting up a trade war on another front, which is going to lead to a physical war, which is why the Valley of Jehoshaphat is all leading up to the prophecy of the Valley of Jehoshaphat in Joel, the 3rd chapter. But let's let it finish.
India threatened to increase its tariffs to as high as 120%. Ahead of the meeting with his Indian counterpart later this month, the US president accused New Delhi of not giving Washington equal access to the Indian market, is the American point of view on it. Polly Boyker and the In Case You Missed It team take a swipe at America's controversial trade policies these days.
How do you launch a war without needing to fight a war? In case you missed it, it's the economy, stupid. International access to the US market used to be a bit like dating the rich girl next door. Winning her over was not easy or cheap, but in the end, it was worth it. Under Donald Trump, those US markets are now leather-clad and stood in a well-lit Amsterdam window. Access is now expensive, and even if it was worth it, you know it's gonna hurt somehow. We all know that America has the biggest military in the world. Just look off the coast of whatever country you're in. There's a good chance that there is a US aircraft carrier staring right back at you. So now the US is weaponizing its economy in order to fight international disputes, and dominating the market is ICBS. Introducing the Intercontinental Ballistic Sanction, ready to be deployed anywhere you need it. Advantages of the ICBS include causing misery to entire populations in countries you don't like without firing a single shot. Collapse the economies of your opponents and then blame them. Attack countries without actually having to deploy a single soldier and then accuse them of aggression.
And that's why everyone is mad and angry at this place, man. All right? When you got people dying and starving and dying in the streets, man. You know? And from violence because they've had no food, no water, no shelter, etc., etc. And here's the end game of that prophecy, man. The Lord is gathering all the nations. And he's going to he's going to destroy all their armies, man. And destroy Esau, Edom. All right? This is Joel, the 3rd chapter and the 2nd verse. All right, and it reads, "And I will also gather all nations, and I will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel." All right, his heritage is Israel, not all people, like the Christians will tell you. They'll try to read, you know, whoever so-called on the name of the Lord. The whosoever is talking about Israelites. The scattered Israelites coming back from all the nations they were scattered to. It's simple. All right. I'll read it again. "But I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and have parted my land. And they have cast lots for my people and have given a boy for a harlot and sold a girl for wine that they might drink." And so the Israelites were sold into slavery and scattered among all nations on the four corners of the earth. All right, so you know, so these, you know, that Edomite pipe dream that the people of the Anglo-Saxons are Edomites. You know, that's madness. They just disregard and try to have cognitive dissonance or plausible deniability of all the relics and the history of the Dark Ages that prove that so-called Negroes were ruling in Europe and all the great empires that were here in the Americas when Cristobal Colon, aka Christopher Columbus, came here to America. All right. So with that, I hope this was a edifying lesson. Call halal Yahweh Bashim Shai Bashim Rakak Wadash Wa Ababa Bal Kwam Yasharala.